A lot of the heavy metal fans watching this video may not be very impressed with the 17-year gap between At the Drive-In's last album and Inter Alia here in 2017, considering they've seen wider gaps within their own subgenre. You know, bands such as Carcass taking more than 20 years to release brand new material, and some bands not releasing material that was, you know, originally thought up in the 1980s. So it may not seem very impressive, but this is a really big event, considering At the Drive-In is considered by some to be one of the true patriarchs of the modern post-hardcore sound that you hear, and has been sort of emanated by a lot of bands over the course of the past 15 years. And also, whenever we last left this band with Relationship of Command, it was a strong statement that was made for music, one of the stronger ones in the first part of the brand new millennium. So it was curious to see them depart us after the release of such a magnum opus. So here in 2017 with Inter Alia, the question remains, what are they going to do? Considering Relationship of Command and their prior work is now held in high esteem, are they going to aim for that nostalgia, or are they instead going to open up this second bookend of At the Drive-In versions with a little bit of the philosophy that they gained while they were away with bands such as Mars Volta? So we need to examine this album to discover this. This is an 11-track affair at 41 minutes in length, which right there should be a bit of a clue, a bit of an indicator of what that answer perhaps could be. And if you said that they were going to aim to try to recapture some of that chaos, that unadulterated mayhem that really made some of their early work so such a catapult point for so many people to want to try to maybe do this for themselves or really enjoy the album, then you're certainly correct. The question really is that does it have the same density, the same layer, and the same real belovedness as as those early albums, such as In Casino Out? Does it have sort of that same veneer? But whenever you start off with No Wolf Like the Present, you notice that you just have a ton of energy, a lot of kinesis that's going on with this band. It is just sort of flowing everywhere, and you feel very much like you've taken a bit of a time capsule back to the latter portions of the 1990s with this band, where that real insanity is one of the things that beckons so many people to their sound in the first place. This does sound a tad bit more controlled than some of those early explorations. Age might be a factor, perhaps experience and maturity could be another reason behind that, but it still has a certain fury to it that speaks to a lot of people and will definitely speak to a new generation just as well as it did the first. This is going to be a multi-generational event, I feel, where those from the initial generation of ATDI fans are going to flock to this album in big numbers, whereas new and more curious fans, those that perhaps did not grow up with some of these records but instead discovered them later on or by the recommendation of some older folks, are going to get their first taste and probably be satisfied. Going into songs such as Continuum or Tilting at the Univendor, we have a little bit more of that absurdity and lyricism here that you heard a bit on Relationship of Command. Now, whenever you examine this a little bit more closely, the absurdity does tend to take some shape and make some sense. However, at the same time, the fast-paced delivery almost reminds you a little bit of Zach De La Rocha, and we're going to explore that a little bit further on down the line. It's kind of curious how going from a style such as what the Mars Volta employed, where everything was more focused on singing as opposed to kind of shouting or delivering these lyrics at a rapid-fire pace, almost letting your voice be a weapon all its own, certainly is, it causes a little bit of a difference in delivery, and it's definitely a difference in delivery that has shifted a bit over the years as the thickness has become a little bit more higher pitched, which could easily be because of some of the higher notes that became a trademark of what the Mars Volta was able to accomplish. Now, I really have to say that whenever it comes to some highlights early on, we have Governed by Contagions going right into Incurably Innocent, which was one of the singles that was dropped. What's weird about Incurably Innocent is actually the fact that this song starts off sounding like an absolute train wreck, and then somehow, some way, all of these weird pieces that seem so dissonant and apart from one another unify together as the song continues in order to craft something that becomes not only pleasant to listen to, but something that you actually want to return to. It has a certain subtle genius to it that is very interesting to behold. Now, whenever you get into Call Broken Arrow and to a Holtzclaw, things are starting to get a little bit predictable. You're starting to understand some of the formula of what At the Drive-In attempted to do with Inter Alia, and that's becoming one of the more disappointing factors on this album, is that there's not a lot of unpredictability that this album really possesses if you know what this band is capable of. If you've heard some of their previous albums, you know that they have that ability to really take that insanity and put it aside for a couple of songs in order to craft some tracks that have either a little bit of heart or a little bit more harmony that is associated with them. Either that, or tracks that have a real awareness to them that make them feel bigger than anything else that they've done. Songs such as Invalid Litter Department off of Relationship with Command comes to mind for me, or even a track such as Hourglass, which really dials things back and almost delivers something that is solely and 100% delivered from the soul. And that's not something that you get until Ghost Tape number 9, which is the 10th track on this album, odd as it may be. And even then it feels a little bit like they are staying within the controlled and very convenient envelope of everything else that they have on this record, where the only thing that has truly shifted is the fact that they've slowed down the pace a little bit for one track, and that's just simply not enough. And at this point in time, you're starting to really understand what I mean by some of these deliveries sounding almost Zach De La Rocha-like. The way in which the rolls of some of the lyrics coming out of the mouth definitely have that same instance, either that or that same tonal property. And whenever you get the Hostage Stamps, a song that sounds like it should be unbonafide chaos, it actually falls a bit short whenever it comes to delivering what exactly it seems to sound like it should deliver. And perhaps that's a little bit of ignorance, but at the same time, the expectation is always for a last track to really not hold back, either that or deliver some sort of crazy experiment, and none was really done here. But even with that being said, this is a pretty fair comeback album. It's one that is not going to really reflect the majesty of some of the previous versions and albums that this band has been able to give us, but it is still something that's very welcome in 2017. It's not going to absolutely blow you away unless you are that high on this band that seeing this album is going to give you an instantaneous boner regardless of whether it's crap or not. This is about a 17 out of 30 overall. It's relatively above average, but at the same time, you definitely know that if this band gets a second crack at releasing a second generation At the Drive-In album, that it's probably going to have a lot more bells and whistles attached, as opposed to this album, which feels like they're just kind of getting back into the swing of things. But I want to know what you guys think about Inter Alia by At the Drive-In. Let me know in the comments below. My name is CoverKillerNation, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.